let's talk about pipeline as code, right? So when we are saying about Jenkins, when you are talking about Jenkins or GitHub Actions, right? So in these things, in both, common thing is you are building pipeline. Pipeline basically sequence of steps, or sequence of jobs to be done. First job could be making a build, second job could be running some basic tests, right? So this pipeline, we call it as pipeline, one step, then step 1, then step 2, then step 3, so on. We call this as a pipeline, right? So this pipeline can be written, this pipeline can be created by writing code. Okay, how do you create a pipeline? Is it a drag and drop tool? Is it something like where you put a service and then you put another service and you write code on this, We do not have such kind of a GUI platform, right? So we will be creating a pipeline, CI/CD pipeline using code. It means basically pipeline is written in form of code, right? That is this pipeline as a code, and we call that as YAML configuration. Let's understand this. Pipeline as code means configuring your builds, deployments and tests with source code that you store in your source repository. You are configuring all these tasks. It lets you manage changes to these activities same way you manage your application code. So let's say your pipeline step number 1 is to build, construct a build. Step 2 is to test. Step 3 is to maybe move to staging. Step 4 is to deploy. These things, these steps are written as a code, some format. Okay, it is written as a code. In that code we have mentioned first do this step, then do this step, then do this step. And let's say when I want to test or when I want to build, okay, let's say in step 1 I will say the step 1 is about build, step 2 is about test. Okay, in this build I will be writing what is the command, right? make maybe make java.c.jar extension, like this some command I will be writing there. So all the commands which are required for doing these steps all together are kept as a code, right? So you will you use pull request to make changes. So at least one other engineer approves and tracks them, right? You correlate changes with the requirements that you enter into systems like Jira, right? You tie unit testing with builds and deploy via pipeline code, right? I will show you some example of this pipeline as a code. See here, I am just moving forward and showing you. See, this is one YAML file. So this actually it is talking about pipeline. This is a pipeline. Okay, but that pipeline is written as code, and that file which we use to write the pipeline or define the pipeline is called as YAML. See, trigger branches include main. Okay, variables, solution, build platform, build configuration, stages, build, test, publish, deploy. Then in build, stage number is build, script, .NET restore, .NET build. I wrote some command here. Then the next stage is test. What is the script for that? .NET test --config. This is the command actually to do the testing. Then I have another script. Then for deploy I have another script. All together if you are writing, we are building a pipeline by writing code. If you change this code, your pipeline will change. Your sequence steps will change. See, you may do that. What you can do, you can build, then publish, and then deploy, and then test. That is also possible. It depends. You just change the order of the sequence order here, right? So the file in which we write the pipeline code is called as YAML. Okay, so we'll understand it better, right? So to use pipeline as code, projects must contain a file named Jenkins file. Okay, the project must contain a file named Jenkins file in the repository root, which contains a pipeline script, which you will be opening and editing it. I hope you remember in the Jenkins, when I was demonstrating the Jenkins, we have seen that we have to write some script there, right? That this is that script which will be helping us in doing the building the script, building the pipeline, right? Additionally, one of the enabling jobs need to be configured in Jenkins. Okay, so it could be multi-branch pipeline, organization folders, everything can be taken care in this sequence of steps, right? So fundamentally, an organization repository can be viewed as a hierarchy, where each repository may have child elements of branches and pull request. Some simple example like this. This is my organization, GitHub organization. I have project 1 in that master, then feature branch A and B. Project 2, like this I may have examples, right? So based on this structure, we will be trying to write the pipeline as code. Okay, so that we call it as YAML. So YAML stands for yet another markup language, is a standard configuration format for defining CI/CD pipelines as code. It is widely used across tools like GitHub Actions, GitLab CI/CD, Azure DevOps, and so many other tools. This is an example. This is a pipeline as code. Pipeline as code. It means a pipeline has been defined by writing code, and the file in which I write this pipeline code is called as YAML file. We call it as YAML configuration file. Okay, right? So it contains several sections. If you see, there are so many sections here: trigger, variable, stages, right? There are so many sections in the YAML file. What are these things? If you know those sections, you can write your own YAML configuration file, right? So the first one is the trigger. Trigger specifies which branches should trigger the pipeline. From where does the pipeline should begin? In the case, the pipeline will only be triggered when a commit is made to the main branch. Okay, so here if you see in this example, when I wrote main, it means if some commit is happening in the main, from there this trigger will be executed automatically. Because I have mentioned here, trigger should begin from main. Then variables. What is this section for? See here, what is this section for? I am giving the solution, build platform, build configuration, right? Well, what are these? Defines variables that will be used throughout the pipeline. In this example, if you see here in this example, right, the solution variable specifies the location of .sln file. The build platform and build configuration variables are used to specify the platform and the configuration for the build, right? So build platform, any CPU I can build it. Configuration is the release, right? So to mention those things, we can use the variable section. Then we have stages. So what did I give here? See, I have defined 4 different stages: build, then test, then publish and deploy. Okay, so defines the stages of the pipeline. In this example, it is build, test, publish and deploy. Then the first stage is build. Defines the build stage, which restores dependencies and builds the application using the specified configuration. Build means converting .java to .jar, archive .jar, .var, .tar, all that formats will be converted in the build stage. The next stage is test stage. This stage runs the test using the specified configuration and the logs. Okay, so running the basic unit testing kind of things will be done in this phase. Then there is publish. Publish means what we do here, we will be defines the publish stage, which publishes the application to a directory called publish. Finally, deploy. Defines the deploy stage, which deploys the application to a remote server using the SCP command, because I gave here SCP command here for deploying it, right? So this is the configuration file. So pipeline as code is a simple concept. You are saying that you need to define CI/CD pipelines for doing some task automatically. That pipeline I am writing it as a code, and that code I am writing in a file. That file is called as YAML file, right? So we will be using this script or this code both in GitHub Actions as well as in Jenkins, right. So, this is the significance of this concept pipeline as code, that is YAML configuration. It is required for us to do build a pipeline even in Jenkins or in GitHub Actions. So, each action we are telling through a script, right. So, this is about the concept pipeline as code.